All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first meeting of 2025. I will have our city clerk start with our roll call.
Mayor Kaylee Clark.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Karen Howe.
Here.
Councilmember Amy Lamb.
Here.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Sid Gupta.
Here.
Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Councilmember O'Farrell, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? All right, I will do our land acknowledgement. Okay. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples who are reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. All right, so first up we have new mayor and new deputy mayor. So as we know, mayors are normally 2 terms, but I am stepping down from mayor to enter my last semester of law school and hopefully pass the bar this year. So I just want a little bit more time back if I could have it. But I've really appreciated this role. I really appreciate, this council and being the leadership for all of us. With that, I will accept nominations for a mayor first, and then we'll do deputy mayor. So I'll open it up, and I would like to nominate Deputy Mayor Howe to be mayor, and I will open it up if there are any other nominations before we vote. Okay, if you don't win this, that could be embarrassing. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, so we have 1 nomination for Deputy Mayor Howe to be mayor. All those in favor for Deputy Mayor Howe to be mayor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All righty, congratulations. The meetings will be a little less funny, but still really good. Okay, I will let you take over.
And before I do the nomination for deputy mayor, I'd like to take a point of privilege to thank Mayor Kaylee Clark for what she's done for the city. She's been a voice of stability and reason and competency and calmness in the face of storm, and been a delight to work with and a pleasure. And I will, of course, I want to give everybody an opportunity to give their thanks as well to Kaylee, because we owe her a debt of gratitude. And to that, I've written a poem. In fact, it's an ode. It's kind of like Shelley or Keats or Byron. There once was a mayor from Sammamish whose care for her people was lavish. She was fair, bright, and kind, with a heart so aligned. Her leadership's legacy is truly distinguished.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you can have it.
Will you sign
You can have that.
Thank you.
Okay, if others would like to say thanks, I think now would be an appropriate time.
You just do thumbs up.
Oh, I see Roisin and I see Amy.
Do you want to go first, Amy?
So I really appreciate Kaylee as mayor. When we were running for council in 2021, when it was known like who all the candidates were, one of the first person actually to call me up was Kaylee, and that was to introduce herself and say hello and just to get to know me. And so I think that in part translates to how she has been as mayor. I really appreciate her openness, her directness, and excuse me, and her ability to just engage and engage with the residents and our electeds, and to that extent sort of further and improve our reputation among our neighboring cities and among our electeds. So I really appreciate your tenure on council as mayor.
Kaylee, I just want to thank you. I appreciate your calmness. I appreciate your ability to listen really well. And I really appreciate that when you come into a meeting, when you come into a room, you bring no ego whatsoever. And I really love that about you. And I think all of us could take a leaf out of your book on that one. And because it becomes apparent to me that your first instinct is to listen and then to speak. And I appreciate that very much. And I've learned a lot from watching you. So I appreciate you. I'm so pleased that you're still on council and we still have some more time with you. But it has been an absolute pleasure to work with you. And thank you for everything you've taught me.
Okay, next I will entertain nominations for deputy mayor.
I would like to nominate Councilmember Amy Lamb for Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we will go to a vote. All those in favor for Amy Lamb for being deputy mayor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Amy Lamb, deputy mayor. It's a job you know well. Okay, next we go to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Now let's move to public comment. So the public is welcome to attend city council meetings in person or at City Hall, give public comment or virtually or through Zoom. Today we will start with the folks in the room. And first up, I see Paul Stickney's name first. You have 3 minutes, Paul. And actually, I cut you off earlier in 2023. You get an extra 20 seconds.
There we go. Good evening, City Council. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. Happy New Year. I want to chat tonight about what I think is a real solution for the city. And this comment is about how to factor in both external and internal housing need numbers into the 2024 to 2044 comp plan and the proposed comp plan update. In support of this comments, I've given you 2 handouts. One's a copy of my email I sent in on the 10th of last month to City Council, along with consequences that I feel have happened for not meeting market rate housing in the first 25 years in our city. Optimal, that is. And second, it's a markup of the suggestions I sent by email. It's not the entire thing because there were a lot of pages that didn't have markups. It's just the pages that have the markups. And that's on the comp plan framework contract for implementation of comp plan and the town center redo. Well, our new comp plan, it really does address keeping our regional growth target low, which I totally support. It also addresses 100% affordable housing overlay. We need workforce housing in Sammamish. What it does not address, and what my focus has been for a long time, is to set internal legislative target numbers for market rate housing, mostly between 500 and $1.4 million, and some higher end condominiums and townhomes in the 1.5 range and higher million that are both urgently needed and long overdue within our city relative to our makeup and housing supply. About the framework contract, I support comp plan implementation other than changes made after integrating legislatively set market rate housing shortage target numbers into the comp plan. And that's a mouthful. After legislatively setting citywide market rates, then we should make and that's on a citywide basis, we should decide what percentage of those needs should go into town center. So I think it's really important for us to meet local market rate needs and also affordability needs. And summarizing, I think as a community, we should legislatively set market rate housing target numbers for this comp plan first, then integrate appropriate parts of citywide need into town center, and then finish implementation of the comp plan. That's my comment. Appreciate the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mary Wichter.
Good evening, Council. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a good holiday. I'm Mary Wichter. I've lived in Sammamish for 24 years, and I've actually lived over half my life in the state of Washington. I used to live on the other side of the lake, right across from where I live now. It was really nice to learn that Sammamish rhymes with lavish. And that you can get IOU credits for any missed timing for public comment. So let's hear for the new mayor. I did want to speak on your meeting on the consent calendar. You have item number 8, which I completely agree with. I think Framework is a fantastic consultant that they've certainly done a lot of work for us. I did notice in the numbers, it looks like about 43 to 44,000 of their dollars were not used that was approved this year. So you're only asking for like 237, and I'm wondering if you can up that number so that you can include some things, because they're going to be working on the comp plan and working on the town center, working on the code for that and trying to make it more workable. And what we really want is a town center and a land use planning for the whole city that would work not only for the people, but for the houses, the workforce housing people, affordable housing. And there's just a lot of need for, like Paul says, legislatively set market rate housing, because that's just not, we just don't have enough of that. When I first met Paul Stickney, I said, "Oh, you're the affordable housing guy." He said, "No, I'm the housing affordability." And I was like, oh, that is a really big difference. And he'd given me numbers on Klahani, I think back from 2008 or 2010. Klahani had about 1,000 multifamily units, and the city of Sammamish only had about 1,000. So when we annexed Klahani, we actually went from 6% multifamily to 10% multifamily, which is still really, really, really low. And all the multifamily that I see, I really like in this city. Most of it was built under King County and not since Sammamish has been incorporated. So what I would recommend is that we do the framework, continue the work. You can pull it off the consent. You can add that money if you want to, because I think that if they do that and tie it all together, you'll end up with a much better result. And I emailed in this morning, something from Bozeman, Montana, where I grew up, and I still own land there and have family there. They hire a consultant from Denver who's part of their economic development plan. Bozeman's about 5 to 10 years ahead of where you are with the things they're looking at. They're actually having stuff built that they talked about. And the consultant does a really good job. If you just watch about 17 to 20 minutes of it, he shows you what the different, R6 to R20 and R40 is. And then he also talks about for a neighborhood center, that's where you just have a walkable and quarter mile and half mile, you need to have 3,300 dwelling units or housing units. Because if you don't have more than that, then you're commercial and things really don't work. So if we build a town center that's too small or doesn't have enough of those, I think it's very important to avoid. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the room from somebody who didn't get a chance to sign up? If not, we'll move to online.
Per the reasonable accommodation, those who had pre-registered, please raise your hand if you wish to give testimony. We do have one commenter. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Coyne.
Okay, great. Thank you. And would it be possible to get the additional 5 minutes, I guess the total 5 minutes as an elected official? Is that possible?
I'm a little startled by your request, I guess. What will you be covering?
Just public comment, but I think as an elected official, I think before, my understanding was you get a total of 5 minutes. I could be wrong, but I think that was,
I don't
my
think
past
that's actually
experience.
part of our council rules. So if you could do
Okay.
3, that would be great.
yeah, I'll go ahead and go 3. So
Thank you, Matt.
hello and Happy New Year. Matt Coyne with the Issaquah School Board. I'm here this evening to provide you an update on the Issaquah School District's bond measure. As we all know, the measure that ran during the November general election did not meet the 60% requirement for passage. The measure did reach 50% approval, but unfortunately, Washington is one of a small number of states across the country that requires the 60% approval on school bond measures. For most other states, it's a simple majority. Even though the November bond measure did not pass, the need in the Issaquah School District still exists. The school board completed a series of listening sessions since the November bond measure and heard very clearly that the original bond measure was too large in size and scope. We took that feedback to heart and at our December school board meeting approved a bond measure totaling $231.6 million, which is a 63% reduction from the November measure. The new measure will appear on the February 11th special election ballot. The new bond measure maintains the current combined tax rate of $3.09 per $1,000 assessed value, representing a decrease from the 2024 rate of $3.13. And then for context on that, that is significantly lower than the previous 20-year average of $3.90. The updated measure focuses on 2 key areas of focus, which is safety and security and high school capacity. Safety and security, let's see, I'm just following my notes here. Safety and security projects totaling $39.9 million, which includes updates to the fire systems and the construction of vestibules at all 3 comprehensive high schools. Also includes updates to security cameras, intercoms, gates, and fencing. And then high school capacity, which is totaling $191.7 million. This would allow the district to begin construction on the new comprehensive high school, which, as we like to say, is shovel ready. We have the property and the permits ready. We just need the additional dollars to start the project. It would also allow us to expand and remodel Liberty High School to support career programming. We also heard loud and clear that the community strongly desires more project oversight. So the district is putting together a capital projects oversight committee to ensure accountability and transparency on all capital projects. And just lastly, would ask the Sammamish City Council to consider passing a resolution in support of the February measure. And again, thank you to the council members who supported our November measure. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And if that's it for public comment, then we can move to executive session.
Yes, we had 1 pre-registered commenter. Thank you.
Thanks. So for executive session, we will meet to discuss with legal counsel potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, paren 1I, approximate duration about 15 minutes. That being the case, you can there may be a potential for action after. So let's meet at 7:05. Thank you. It's 7:05 and we are back in session. Council member, what is your name? Stewart. Thank you. Could you help us out, Councilmember Stewart?
I'm not sure that I can, Mayor, but I will read this motion. I move to authorize the city manager to sign administrative settlements with the Craig R. Bell Trust, Douglas Ian Bell, and Deborah Lynn Hiller related to the Issaquah Falls City Road project for a conservation easement in the amounts recommended by the city's right-of-way agent and staff.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll move next to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'd like to pull item number 8, please. Or, excuse me, item number 7.
Okay, item number 7 has been pulled. Is there a motion to approve the amended consent calendar?
Moved?
Mayor, could I
Yeah?
clarify with Councilmember Trine? Is it item number 7 or item number 8, Councilmember?
Yeah, item number 7 is the contract with Frameworks to continue work related to the implementation of the.
Actually, that's 8. That's 8.
Yeah, so, okay, so the number 8 then.
Okay, number 8. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate
you.
that. Apologies.
So, was that that was moved and seconded? Is that correct?
It was moved.
Moved.
I moved.
Or
No.
just, we can pull it.
For the
Amended second.
okay, great. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So now we're to presentations and proclamations, and I believe Sid Gupta, Councilmember Gupta, has something for us.
Proclamation, National Day of Service, Monday, January 20th, 2025. Whereas Martin Luther King Jr., a visionary leader and champion of civil rights, dedicated his life to the pursuit of justice, equality, and peace for all, and Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolent resistance inspired a movement that transformed American society and continues to resonate globally, as evidenced by King County, Washington being renamed in 1986 to honor his enduring influence in the values of equity, justice, and nonviolence that guide our communities. And whereas the 2025 Martin Luther King Jr. Day observance focuses on the theme Mission Possible, protecting freedom, justice, and democracy in the spirit of Nonviolence 365, underscoring Dr. King's pioneering philosophy of Nonviolence 365 as a sustainable solution to addressing injustice and creating a just society. And whereas the King Center will host a series of impactful events leading up to the holiday, including nonviolence training, youth engagement programs, and the prestigious Beloved Community Awards, all aimed at fostering a deeper understanding of Dr. King's legacy. And whereas January 20th, 2025 will mark the 30th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a National Day of Service, encouraging all residents to participate in acts of service and community engagement. And whereas this year, the observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day coincides with the inauguration, providing a unique opportunity to reflect on Dr. King's vision for a more just and equitable nation, and to recommit ourselves to the principles of democracy and nonviolence. Now, therefore, Karen Howe, Mayor of Sammamish, on behalf of
We're all surprised.
on behalf of the Sammamish City Council, does hereby proclaim January 20th, 2025 as Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the city of Sammamish, King County, Washington. I urge all residents to reflect on Dr. King's legacy, participate in community service events, and work toward building a beloved community where justice, equality, and peace prevail.
Thank you, Councilmember Gupta. And I'll also mention that the Inglewood School principal got in touch with us looking for different volunteer opportunities. And so as we're able to talk to others about this, we may mention the fact that there's an opportunity to serve on January 20th as Day of Service. So let's move on to new business. We're now going to be looking at external committee appointments, and Mike Sugg will be helping us with this.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Howe, and good evening and Happy New Year, Council. Mike Sugg, Supervising Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office. This agenda item provides time for you all to consider your external committee appointments for 2025. As you know, many of your external committee appointments have already been determined through the Sound Cities Association process, but what we're talking about tonight are the 9 committees that we as a city have responsibility for appointing to. Exhibit 1 in your packet includes the list of committees, the current membership, as well as some additional information such as the meeting locations and times. The plan for tonight is for the mayor to go through the committees one by one and ask whether there are any membership changes that are desired. To assist with this discussion, I'll go ahead and pull up the current list of committees and members on the screen. And with that, I will hand it back over to you, Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, it's not coming up on my screen, but it'll come up over here. There it is. Thank you very much. There are several committees here between Arch, Eastside Fire and Rescue, Eastside Transportation Partnership, K4C elected partners, and so forth. First of all, what I'd love to know, are there any members here that are desirous of making a change to what you're doing today? Oh, there we go. Deputy Mayor Lamb.
I would like to move down from the Public Issues Committee. So I'm happy to be an alternate unless there's somebody else that wants to do that. And I believe Sid Gupta, Councilmember Gupta, has offered to be the voting member for that.
Are you good with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Does anyone else want to make a change or move? Is anyone lusting after any of the groups I am part of that they would desperately like to be on? Because I want to give people the opportunity to have access to anything that I'm currently listed on.
Are you overtaxed?
It's not so much that. It's more that these are great organizations and groups, and I think kind of spreading the wealth of information is a good idea. So I think, Kent and I have benefited from being on the Eastside Transportation Partnership. It's a nice blend because right now I'm also on the Regional Transit Commission as well. So that's a nice intersection. However, staff does such a great job with their notes that I don't feel like I have to attend. I read the notes and I feel like I'm caught up. So if there's anybody that wants to take anything that I have.
Yeah, so Karen, I was just thinking, that was one of the things, if you want me to just move out of the alternate position.
And go
move in,
full.
I would, because I attend the meetings, so it's not a.
Yay team. I think that would be great, Kent.
If that would help you out, I would
You know
be
what?
more
It
than happy
would.
to take that.
It would.
Just-
So I would appreciate it, and I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you're looking at? Councilmember Stewart. Sorry,
Thank you for remembering this time.
I want to call you Pam.
If you aren't that interested, I wouldn't mind potentially being on the Eastside Transportation Partnership as the alternate. Unless you wanted
the
to
alternate?
stay, unless you wanted to stay on as the
No,
alternate.
that's great.
Cool.
That's great. I think it's terrific. I'm good with that. Anybody else?
Mayor, I'd be happy to sit on K4C. If unless that's something you really would like to stay on, I'd be happy to take that on.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
I'm also wondering why it's trying to cancel my presenter status. Just say yes. Just say yes. Okay. All right. Going once, going twice, anything else? Okay. Great. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I think that's really good. And I'm looking forward to everybody having a little bit of a swap around and getting an opportunity to try something new that perhaps they haven't done before. So that's great. On the elected one in particular, I don't always get a notice about that. So just make sure that you're on the list. Okay. Okay. Are we there? Was that it?
That's it. Thank you, Council.
Okay, great. We'll move to the next item then, which is the city manager's proclamation of emergency bomb cyclone weather event.
I will take that one as well, Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening. Once again, Mike Sugg, Supervising Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office. In late November, as we all know, the city experienced a major weather event, commonly referred to as a bomb cyclone. The event caused widespread power, internet, and cell outages, as well as significant damage to public and private infrastructure throughout the city. Given these impacts, the city manager issued a proclamation of civil emergency on November 22nd in order to utilize the emergency powers granted to him under state and local law. This allowed the city to quickly contract with service providers and procure additional equipment and services to aid in the response. The city's code allows the city manager to issue this proclamation immediately and then later receive council's approval at the following regular meeting, and that is tonight. Therefore, staff is recommending that council approve the proclamation tonight. Regarding the end date for the emergency, this proclamation will need to be terminated through subsequent council action. Staff are currently discussing the appropriate timing to terminate the emergency, and we'll be sure to keep council informed on our suggested date for that. And with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Howe for council's consideration.
Council, is there any discussion about this? And I see that Councilmember Clark.
I'm ready to make the motion if you have no other.
I don't know. We're good? Okay.
Awesome. So I move to approve the city manager's November 22, 2024 proclamation of emergency due to the bomb cyclone weather event pursuant to Sammamish Municipal Code 2700501B.
Second.
Thank you. There's a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And next we will go to resolution setting a public hearing date to consider the vacation of a portion of public right-of-way at the southeast corner of Southeast 4th Street and 225th Place Southeast. And I believe for this we have Audrey Starcy and Greg and Joseph.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. For the record, I'm Audrey Starcy. I'm the Director of Public Works for the city. I'm joined tonight by Greg Samatillo, our Deputy Director of Public Works, and Joseph C., our Development Review Engineering Manager. We are here tonight to present Council with a consideration for a resolution to set the public hearing for a right-of-way vacation. I'm going to turn it over to Joseph C. We do have a quick presentation and available to answer questions that you may have afterwards. And then, of course, we'll ask for council's consideration to approve the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Audrey, for that introduction. It's nice to meet you all, council members. Excited to be part of the city. Happy to be here presenting to you today. So really quickly, this is vacationing of a portion of public right-of-way at the southwest corner of Southeast 4th Street and 225th Place Southeast. So in this next slide, if it works for me, you can kind of see the area that we are discussing. The area in red here is approximately 30 feet wide by about 230 feet long. And this whole strip from Southeast 4th Street all the way down here to essentially adjacent to the parks property is a public right-of-way. The one thing to note here is that this right-of-way space does not align with the city's southern leg of the 225th and Southeast 4th Street roundabout intersection. So what is a right-of-way vacation? Essentially, it's how local governments are able to relinquish their rights in a public property or public right-of-way space. They occur when the city has no further public plan use of the property, and that relinquishment of those rights does not adversely impact current or future public needs. So right-of-way vacations may be initiated by petitioners, which are property owners that are abutting the property, or by the city. And if they are initiated by the petitioner, typically the city is entitled to compensation in amount up to 1/2 of the appraised value. So right-of-way vacations are governed by state law. It's under RCW 35.79 for cities. But there's also additional city-specific rules that are set by the city of Sammamish, and those rules that are set by the city are contained in our Public Works Standards Appendix I. So one thing to clarify, this resolution we're talking about tonight is only to set the public hearing for the right-of-way vacation and not the action of not taking the action of the right-of-way vacation itself. And you'll see what I'm talking about on this next slide. So this is just kind of a flow chart of how a right-of-way vacation occurs. Essentially, we are at the sort of council setting up public hearing via a resolution step. The city received the application signed by the adequate number of petitioners late last year. It was in the middle of November. A certificate of sufficiency was issued when the city verified that the application was complete. That is part of your agenda package. I believe it's under Exhibit 2. And then that's when staff started working on an agenda item, the agenda bill that you're looking at to request a resolution to set a public hearing. And the next step would be via a resolution, setting the public hearing, going through the public hearing, and then once that is concluded, making a decision. Ultimately, if it does pass, then adopting an ordinance for that vacation. So why is this particular vacation required? So this is part of the town center project. It is required from the 2021 hearing examiner decision and subsequent remand issues and resolutions document regarding that particular town center land use application. As I mentioned in the first slide, the current right-of-way does not align with the city's already constructed capital improvement project on Southeast 4th Street, specifically that southern leg of the 225th Place intersection. And the last point is, while this is a petition-initiated vacation, because it is a condition that's required as part of the hearing examiner decision, the appraisal and subsequent compensation are not applicable in this case. So finally, the recommended motion is written out. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that explanation. Council, do you have questions? Councilmember Treen.
Yeah, so Joseph, so the hearing examiner in the past in regards to the town center properties has overstepped his bounds and has made it pretty clear to this council, or previous councils, that this project should have been passed back down to the city to mediate the construction or development of the properties. So with that in mind, because by the way, just so you know, Joseph, because I don't know you and you don't know me, is the reality is I listened to all of that interaction between the hearing examiner, the city of Sammamish, and the plaintiff at the time for this property. So when vacating this property, the initial, prior to going to the hearing examiner, the initial position that the city or the residents of Sammamish were taking was that, yes, we would be willing to vacate this piece of property in exchange for some benefit to the community. So that's the first position that I'm taking as a council member and a representative of the people of Sammamish. The second piece of this is that the vacation of this property is something that then, if done, again, the city of Sammamish should receive at least compensation for the value of that property, which you're now telling me that's not what you're going to do. And the second part of that is then why would we do that? And then why wouldn't we use this as leverage or as collateral to increase a benefit, and in this case, it would be the Notch property, which I believe, which is what the public was expecting out of it, was that the Notch property would be expanded. So can you speak to that, that one, we actually should be compensated for vacating this, and that two, there should be some benefit to the community so that we don't take the risk of being a gift to a developer or a builder?
Councilmember Treen, there's a lot to unpack there, and so, Joseph, if you don't mind, I might jump in on this one. Councilmember Treen, I appreciate your questions. I think the situation that we have here, and I understand what you're saying, but in this instance, the hearing examiner required that as part of his decision, and so we don't have the option of asking for compensation. And so at this point in time, that was what was required in the remand. And so we are, normally we would be asking for compensation if there was a petition, but that's why on this one, that's not an option.
So then what is the risk of litigation to the city by residents for compensation for this piece of property? Because otherwise, it seems to me, could be wrong, seems to me that it's again a gift.
If I may, again, for the record, as your city attorney, I just want to state that in terms of the regular process for a right-of-way vacation is for the applicant to pay up to 50% of the appraised value. This is not, again, the regular process because of the hearing examiner's decision. If you'd like to have me opine about legal risk, then we need to have an impromptu executive session.
I would request an impromptu executive session then at this time.
If you're framing it as a motion, it requires a second and council approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have an impromptu executive session. I believe that we could accomplish this in maybe 10 minutes, but first we need to hear from the council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Also consistent with the OPMA, we need to announce the purpose. So the purpose of the executive session is to discuss in executive session potential litigation with legal counsel representing the city pursuant to RCW 4230-110 subsection 1I. And what is the approximate duration of this executive session?
I'm guessing 10 minutes.
So we can announce that council will come back to open session at 7:40 p.m.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We didn't actually, but.
Okay, go ahead and vote then.
I think we actually did. Okay. There was sort of a lot of head nods. So I thought we did finish voting actually. So it passes. So we're going to go into executive session now.
Okay, I was a nay, so
Unless
that was
there was
like.
one nay.
I was one nay. I don't
Okay.
know if there were 6 yays.
Do you want to call for the vote again if it's
I'll
not
call for the
clear?
vote again. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Joseph, if you don't have the link, we'll send it to you. Do you have the link to get in to the executive session?
No, I don't think I
Okay.
Send it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Audrey.
Was now, right? And we're back. So we need to take action on setting this resolution to set a public hearing date to consider the vacation of a portion of public right-of-way at the southwest corner of Southeast 4th Street and 225th Place Southeast. Do I hear a motion to set this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
To set a public hearing. Oh, there it
Yes.
is. I move to adopt the resolution as presented by staff to establish a public hearing on February 4th, 2025 to consider
go.
the vacation of this portion of public right-of-way.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. No. And we will move now gracefully to council reports.
Mayor, we have one item that was pulled
Of
off of
course there
consent.
is. Of course there is.
so-
That's right. We did pull it from number 8 from the consent calendar, and I am delighted to discuss it now. Councilmember Treen, would you like to discuss this?
Thank you very, very much, Mayor Howe. That was fun to say. So there was, whereas back in the day, the council met with the Planning Commission and the Parks Board members, and we sat around and we discussed whether we should continue working or opening up the Town Center Plan and Code Amendment project. And at that time, it was understood it to be that if at some point in time it became unnecessary, since the overall project itself was not necessary to pass our comprehensive plan, that if there came a time where the cost or that the project would not be necessary to move forward, that the council would consider looking at this as something that they would then stop or not proceed at. Based on the information that we received from the feasibility study that was done, it's pretty clear that the feasibility of the plans are pretty tough for them to actually produce something that would actually look like something that was even in the current plan. It seems to me, and then with the budget constraints that we have going forward, that the cost to the city of $235,732 is a large amount of money that we could save to the taxpayers. And so my thought here would be that we, instead of moving forward with the town center plan, that we would just move forward with the, I believe it's just under $8,000 of costs for the code amendments that would be necessary to meet the comprehensive plan, and that we would move forward judiciously and financially in a sustainable manner on this project. So the motion that I would present would be that instead of moving forward with the current plan that includes the full cost of, well, quite a lot, that instead that we would move forward with just moving forward with making the code amendments going forward. So my motion is to eliminate this and to just move forward with the code amendments necessary to meet the law.
Thank you. Carrie, your light is on. Did you want it on?
Apologies, that was unintentional.
Okay. I had thought that this was a contract extension that simply wasn't picked up from last year, but perhaps we could get some explanation.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was going to offer, I appreciate Councilmember Treen, and if I could, I've asked David Pyle to jump on and speak to this contract amendment.
Define. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I always want to check that. Good evening, Council. David Pyle, Department of Community Development. Thank you, City Manager McCall, for reaching out to me and letting me know about this. This is what basically happened is when we were directed to take on this work as part of the joint meeting with the Planning Commission and City Council in the fall of 2023. We set in motion a contract with Framework that amended the comprehensive plan contract to add additional work to review and identify amendments to the town center plan and code in order to facilitate diverse and affordable housing in the town center. One of the challenges with the town center is the economics of development there are very challenging for the purpose of building affordable housing. And while we do have a requirement for 10% inclusionary affordable housing, and we have had an affordable housing bonus pool, and we have had other incentives in the town center to build affordable housing, there is really very limited affordable housing actually being built. I want to also identify that we did start this work, and it was intended to be complete alongside the comprehensive plan. However, and as outlined in the agenda bill presented this evening with the agenda packet, there have been some complications in completing that work due to changes in subconsultants and other issues that have come up along the way. That work, the town center plan and code amendment work is slightly behind and has spilled over into 2025. As was stated when we started this work, and what Councilmember Trine alludes to is this is an optional project for the city. It's not required for us to receive certification in our comprehensive plan. However, it is something that is really needed in the community in order to continue to promote housing. That said, we always did say we could decouple this from the comprehensive plan effort, and we did so because of the delay that we were seeing. Because of the delay, the contract was not fully spent or burned down or spent down, as there is still outstanding work to complete. And we did identify the amount of work that is left that is identified in the contract, or excuse me, in the agenda bill this evening, $235 or so thousand, don't quote me on that, would be the amount of work for us needed to complete the balance of the effort to update the town center plan and code. So this was in years past, we had operated differently with our budget and operated differently with contracts where we were able to do carry forwards. We are no longer doing carry forwards because we are budgeting more closely to actuals. And because we are not doing carry forwards, we are not able to carry forward the unspent amount from 2024 into 2025. And because we are not able to do that, we are not able to extend the contract. We have to start with a new contract in 2025 and a new budget line amount. We had originally identified $100,000 when we were doing budget estimates. However, as time went by and work did not get completed on this contract due to various reasons, we needed to up that amount to match the work that has not yet been complete. So this is not additional funding per se. It is simply taking money that was not spent in 24, not doing a carryover, but instead reassigning it anew in 25 because of how we are now doing budgeting. And the contract would be for the balance of work that was originally envisioned with the original contract that did not get completed by the end of 2024. Happy to answer any questions and hope that provided some sort of clarification.
Council, any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Trine.
So David Pyle, so what you're saying is, as a director, major player here in the city, I have the council, and myself included there, is that we have to weigh the fact that to balance my budget or to reduce spending, so I'm not taking away from my the deficit spending over the next 2 years and 4, 6 going forward, that the proposal is for us to eventually put a utility tax down to our residents. And so I look at this and just say, if it's not necessary, again, I'm back to the same, maybe I'm trumpeting the same horn, but the reality is if I don't have to spend $235,000, I'm saving that for the city because it's unnecessary. And so how can I, as a council member, then go back to my constituents and say to them, hey, I want you to pay all these taxes on your utilities so that I can employ these people to do this work that's unnecessary. So as a professional, I think you understand, I know you understand through our conversations, David, that this isn't gonna be acceptable to the public. So my ask is, as someone who's looking at this, that's as a professional, why would I not, why would I continue moving forward on a project at that cost that would benefit the residents and that they're willing to pay money to do it?
David, if you don't mind. Councilmember Trine, I appreciate the question. I think ultimately that's a question for your colleagues. I think this boils down to whether or not this policy work is something that you want to continue to direct staff to do. And so if that's all right, I think that's probably a question for all of your colleagues to answer.
All right, so then I continue to make my motion then that we just pay for the update that's necessary to do the regulations and that we step away from the town center plan moving forward with the consultant. I'm looking for a second on that. Well, seeing none.
There is no second, however, I think a continuation of discussion might be useful. Councilmember Stewart?
Yeah, thank you, David, for your explanation. And I think maybe a clarification for the public is not legally required does not mean not necessary, right? This work is absolutely necessary for us to be able to achieve some of the affordable housing targets and goals that we have. And I think that that aligns with our DEI initiatives, right? I mean, to be an inclusive city, we have to be able to have housing that can be inclusive. And I think it also very closely aligns with some of our sustainability goals as well. And I think as we proceed in this work, we may also find that it will actually help with our economic development goals. So I see this work as, while maybe not absolutely legally required, I do see it as incredibly necessary. So thanks.
Councilmember Trine, did you have something else to add?
Oh, yeah, I just would mention that. Yeah, I just add that it's not about legal. This is literally about financial sustainability over the long haul for the city. So it's not a legal issue. This is literally what should the city be doing when it comes to the land use of the property that we're responsible for overseeing. It's not a legal issue.
Thank you. And Councilmember O'Farrell?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I support the contract with Framework. When I was knocking on doors in the 2023 election, two things, the biggest things I heard from residents was, and you're correct, Councilmember Trine, fiscal sustainability and keeping the city solvent. And the other thing I heard was housing questions. And lots of our residents are concerned as to where their children would continue to live, where they would continue to live if they choose to downsize within the city. We have a housing crisis nationally, if not internationally. So that's why I'm interested in this work and seeing what more we can get out of our town centre and the housing density to be a small drop in the bucket of this huge, gigantic problem that we're faced, that is probably something that has hung over our country, if not our planet, since the 2008 depression. And so I'm interested in this work and seeing where this can go and creating some workable, viable housing, particularly middle housing. So that's why I support this.
Thank you. And Councilmember Trine, do you have something else to add?
Yeah, I just want the housing crisis. David Pyle, is it true that our current comprehensive plan does meet all of the planning requirements for affordable housing of up to 2,100 homes through different middle housing, ADUs, and other ways of meeting that requirement? Of course, I know the answer. So
make sure I can unmute. Yes, our comprehensive plan does have a compliance pathway included in it. However, not to steal a Paul Stickney word, although it may not be optimized. And this work that we would be doing here would be helping accelerate the delivery of that housing. There are two different paths. The showing that we have the capacity and that we are accommodating it is one thing, and that's what we do in our comprehensive plan. That is our legal requirement. Actually putting a plan in place to start to deliver it and to facilitate it is a different step, and that's really what this work is about. Is it's showing that we're taking those steps necessary to start to really see it be delivered in a reasonable time frame in the community.
Yeah, so the reality is I just see that ADUs is definitely a better option to go, and or upscaling in middle housing for some of our already concrete, asphalt, steel, and glass facilities or centers that already exist. So, and if we also look forward to the neighborhood communities that we have approved on our future land use map, then we've met all these requirements, and fast tracking those would be a step that would be less expensive than the one that you're proposing. Thank you.
And Councilmember Stewart, you have something different to add.
I would just like to move that we authorize the city manager to execute a one-year contract with Framework to continue work from contract C 2022-044 related to the implementation of the 2024 comprehensive plan and the town center plan and code amendment project in the amount of $235,732.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. First and seconded. Any other comment? Okay, thank you. We'll vote on this. And actually, before we vote, just one comment I'll make, David. It has to do with the fact that there were delays in the past. And what I'm optimistic about is that we have resolved whatever it has been that's created some of this delay. Is that fair?
Yes, whether it be staff departures and filling vacant positions, or whether it be dealing with I want to say a lack or a deficiency in the number of consultants available to help support sub-consultant work. We have overcome those. We have those issues resolved, and we are on track. The first step you will see is that tomorrow there will be a determination of significance issued and a SEPA, a supplemental environmental impact statement scoping notice going out to the community, and that will be the first visible step in this work, which will take place tomorrow.
Thank you. All those in favor of supporting the contract with Framework to continue the work related to the implementation of the 2024 comprehensive plan, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, David. And now we'll move to council reports, city manager report. We'll move to a proposed resolution for plant-based catering policy. And Councilmember Gupta will kick us off with this.
Thank you, Mayor. I am proposing a sustainable and equitable catering policy for city-provided meals at public meetings and events. Tonight, I'm seeking feedback on the draft and consensus to bring this back for formal discussion at a future meeting. Plant-based meals have a significantly lower carbon footprint, aligning with our Green Purchasing Guide and Climate Action Plan. The proposed resolution preserves individual choice. It only makes the sustainable and inclusive options the default. The resolution includes simple guidelines for implementation for both food ordered off a menu and through a buffet. Personally, I believe this is important to demonstrate to the community that the city is leading by example. And more than anything, this is about visibility and starting to change norms. I did consult with staff on this resolution to ensure it is realistic to implement. Mayor, I ask for your support in gathering feedback and directing staff to prepare a formal presentation. I would welcome any questions. Thank you.
Great. So thank you for spending the time on this, Sid. I'd love to hear from council if you have questions. No questions?
Sorry.
Councilmember Lamb, Deputy Mayor Lamb.
Do we know how much impact this will have in terms of carbon footprint?
So my understanding is that the city does not cater that many meals per year, so the actual impact will not be that high, but there are calculations. I think there's a service you can use where you submit your receipts and they'll calculate the greenhouse gas impact. It is a small step, admittedly, but I think it is important because as we do move to implementation of our climate action plan, I would like for us to take that step before we tell our community, hey, this is something you can do. I would like the city to also kind of lead by example. I think, we're not necessarily going to change the world, but I do think by ourselves. But I do think that bringing the emissions of the agriculture industry is important. I think those are often overlooked. I think the fact sheet said 15% of greenhouse emissions come from the agricultural industry, and by and large, that comes from beef production.
Okay. So overall, I understand the climate impact that agriculture and ranching and, consumption of meat has on the environment. I guess for me, and I personally don't eat a whole lot of meat, but because it doesn't have a lot of impact on the city, I'm hesitant about supporting this. And it's really the impact that we would have. I would like the resolutions that we make have significant impact. So I'm a little hesitant about supporting this one.
Thank you. And Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Gupta, I'll be supporting this. I do take your point. I think it's important to lead by example, and I understand that, yes, it's a small step, but then, somebody more famous than I said that as they stepped off a spacecraft. So I will be supporting this. I think it's a step forward. I think we're lead by example. I think that's part of our job as City Council to lead by that. So so thank you.
Other comments? If not, I'll make a comment. You're going to go? Great. Good respond.
Yeah, I understand, I don't want to just be passing empty resolutions. It's just as I was thinking about this and bringing this forward, if I were to receive a sustainability guide and it said, hey, you can eat less meat, and then my first thought would be, what is the city doing? And if the city's not doing anything about it, that's when I would feel like, well, that's great. You're just kind of telling me what to do. So I would like us to take that first step of when we do provide food, we are doing it with the sustainability focus in mind. But, I understand your point.
And so from my point of view, I don't know why it needs to be a resolution. I look at this as being something that we can simply put into our sustainability documents as just a standard practice and just normalize it, if you will. And I don't think it needs to be elevated to the level of resolution. I appreciate the effort that went into this and the work, and I get it. And I don't know that it's necessary, in particular because we aren't going to be spending any money on food service going forward. To Councilmember Treen's drumbeat of insistence, we're trying not to spend money, which is good. So I'm indifferent to it right now. I don't feel like it moves the needle enough for me to get behind it and to feel like I want to spend a lot of time on it. But I look forward to finding those things where we can make a difference, where it is measurable, and where we're not telling people what to do in a different way if we don't have to. To have people naturally gravitate to it, I think is maybe optimal. So if we can close out discussion there, we could go to the city manager's report. Oh, sorry. Or not.
So my question would be, I would be supportive of what you said, Mayor, if we made a motion tonight and said that let's update our policy that says, if we cater events, then this will be what we do, right? Like, I'm totally fine with that, so it doesn't have to be a resolution, but we direct the city manager to have staff update the policy. Would that be?
Do I see head nods of agreement and understanding with that?
So I move that we direct the city manager to update whatever city policies or procedures we may have around catering to support all of the points addressed in this resolution.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I'd like to hear from Councilmember Gupta. I kind of jumped to the motion, but I mean, I think the goal, right, is that we change our behavior and we set the example for our behavior. I also think, just based on my personal experience at some recent large events at my place of employment, my day job, it's interesting because, you know, we default to meat-based entrees, and you have to make a special accommodation to get vegetarian. And so, like, really which way we default kind of doesn't matter either way, right? Like, as long as both options are still available, we're not saying that, like, we're not going to make other protein sources available. We're just saying that we're going to flip it upside down and say that the default is to start a vegetarian and people can opt into the other. And I'm kind of okay with that, to kind of flip it on its head once in a while, because it shouldn't always be defaulting to one group over another. So I think it kind of is, in a way, sort of an equity issue. It's certainly a sustainability issue. And I'm not sure, but it might actually even be less expensive, because I know sometimes vegetarian options are less expensive than meat options. So it might actually save us money.
Councilmember,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I think I had a couple questions. So this is suggesting a vegan option. It says no dairy, no eggs. So that, I don't know. I mean, I've been mostly vegetarian for a really long time. I'm a little concerned 'cause some vegan products are more expensive. If there is, like, you know, like the nut-based beverages and things. So I also don't know, is there a policy, Scott, on catering or food? I'm just like, I've never heard of this.
There's not one at the moment, Councilmember. One thing that I would, just for council's understanding, is, you know, this was designed to, when the city caters public events. And so, but even within that, if it is vegan, then even if we were providing cookies, let's say, we would be fairly restricted in what would be available for stuff like that. And that might be a bit of a challenge. So I think just something for council to consider as part of this is, you know, we're not planning on, as the mayor noted, we purposefully took out catering out of the budget moving forward, because we don't feel that that's a reasonable expense. And so we don't intend on doing a lot of public catering, if you will. But also just, you know, thinking about impact, just the most simple thing is cookies. And whether or not you can find vegan cookies. And for instance, for those of us that have like a nut allergy, whether or not vegan cookies are available to everybody. So I know there's no easy answer here. I just want to, you know, throw that out there just to bear in mind.
I appreciate that. I think, yeah, I do. Yeah, I love where this is headed, but it just seems very restricted for something that may not happen. So, and I don't know, like, then would we create a policy on city provide, I don't know. I'm a little confused. So I don't support it as written. Or sorry, the motion as stated.
So I guess a question about the motion on the floor is, the motion is to direct staff to implement a catering policy or adjust. So I guess this is a question for Scott. Is that an alternative path?
Well, we will create some version of a catering policy. Okay. That one doesn't exist yet. Okay. So we'll add that to. It's kind of written here. Well, more or less.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay, nay.
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 I don't know how many that is. 4 to 3.
If you said aye.
I said aye, so the motion carries.
It was me, Kent, Amy. Yeah.
And now we move to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome to 2025, Council. So a couple of things to update on. I want to continue to circle back on storm response because it continues to be ongoing. We got a bit of good news today right before the meeting started. Governor Inslee has declared the cyclone event a state emergency. So that is a good step in the process towards getting the federal government to declare it as emergency, which that remains to be seen whether or not that will happen. But the city has been submitting all of our paperwork. We submitted all kinds of documentation to the state, which then they will in turn submit to FEMA at the federal level. And so we continue to pursue reimbursement if possible. In terms of the storm response, on the plus side, also good news. Most of our parks are now reopened. The crews have managed to get out there and have cleared all of them to make them available, including Beaver Lake ball fields will be reopened as of tomorrow. And then the preserve still needs some work. So Beaver Lake Preserve and Evans Creek Preserve, those are not readily available yet. We still have some work to do on those, but all the other parks are reopened. So that is a real positive. It's taken a while. We continue to clear the rights of way, and I want to put a plug out there to the community to remind, at this point, putting your yard debris in the right of way is illegal dumping and it's subject to a fine. So we are getting hampered by clearing rights of way and coming back and finding more debris on them. And so at this point, we need to ask the community to please stop putting your private debris out in the right of way. It's a problem, and it's hugely expensive for the city to continue to pick up all that stuff. So appreciate everyone's help with that. We continue to pick up, and we will be reporting out to council. We'll come back at a minimum at the council retreat with some more updated numbers and across the board, not only financial, but also the number of trips and the amount of cubic yard material that we have taken out from debris from the storm that continues to be ongoing. All right, a couple of other items just to let everyone know. The flags are lowered to half-mast with the passing of former President Carter. They will be lowered for 30 days, directed by the governor. So just if you see it at half-mast, that's what it's for. Also, reminder, since we did the proclamation on ML King Day, January 20th, City Hall is closed in honor of Dr. King. There will be a day of service event that day. It is through the Parks Department. You can sign up on the website if you wish to volunteer, but you have to fill out the JOT form that's on there and actually register. So would encourage folks to do that. Again, it's weather dependent. If the weather gets really cold like it did last year and we can't dig in the ground, then that might have to change. But for now, it's scheduled for the 20th at Evans Creek Preserve. Let's see, I had one more thing. Oh, I think that was everything. So I think that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you. Back to you.
Council, any updates from you? Oh, I don't have my glasses on. Deputy Mayor Lamb.
I just had a question for the city manager. If the state of emergency isn't declared federally, but it's only declared at a state level, will we potentially get funding reimbursement just from the state?
The state pot of reimbursement money is a lot smaller than the federal government. So I think our likelihood goes down quite a bit if it's just the state.
Okay, thank you.
Any other updates? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. Oh, sorry. I need to vote. Dang it. We're so close. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned.